on the Signal podcast today. We're going to be talking about AI agents, skills, some kind of frameworks that we've been kind of like cooking up. And I'm really excited for Marcus because Marcus and I have been doing a lot of coding together lately over AI, and it's been really fun. We've had a good time. We're building some really cool stuff. So, Marcus, I think everybody here knows you, but maybe just do a quick intro and talk about what you're working on.
Well, it's good to be the guest here, Kevin. I got to know you, funny enough, through the Graph Builders office hours. That was one of our first touch points. And being visible, being coding, being in the public dance that is this role has been really nice to grow with you. And now here I am as a guest to the Signal, which is great. Yeah, so my background, years ago, I was a doctor of physical therapy and said, coding's cool. Let's go ahead and do that as a side project. So I was practicing while also scripting, Python, just enjoying myself, Raspberry Pi, doing some scripting around the house, just trying to automate stuff around the house. And then pandemic hit and found myself really doubling down on software. And then I couldn't go into clinic, couldn't assist my patients. From there, I said, who else can I assist? So doubled down onto the coding world, found an internship at a crypto startup, and eventually that became a full-time job. I've found a way to blend my ability to work with patients to then work with developers, and having that in between where the data sets of biomechanics and pathophysiology help the patients. Now I have data sets that are actually data sets and coding and the culture therein to help developers. So it's been an interesting journey for the last 5 years, and now I'm here still yapping away. You and me, buddy.
I feel like it's really cool, like your story. Actually, I was telling someone the other day about how you kind of came into the space, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that now, right? With like AI and vibe coding, because people are just having this like kind of it's almost like this childhood moment where you remember when you're a kid and you have this cool idea, and then you want to relive that idea when you get older. I've talked to a lot of friends now that are like, I just want to build this app that I have this idea for, and it relates to like something that I've done over the last 10 or 20 years. Like one of my friends, Rob, he used to write screenplays, and he's building like an entire app now for it, and he's not a programmer at all. So it's really exciting to see. Like, I mean, obviously you're in a much extremer case because you're like in the weeds and you're actually doing a lot of development. But it's cool to see these kind of other opportunities come to life for like people that want to code, but they never had that experience before. So really cool.
I feel exactly for this state that we're in as an industry where reevaluating what it means to interact with software, to build software. We don't have that answer at this point. We do know though that the output right now is unparalleled in any other time of software development. The amount of sheer output that people can create. And not only that, but the output almost self-organizes itself in a certain way. I have a kind of a metaphor where when you're building something as a kid and you have a toy hammer, you know exactly what that toy hammer does. You natively pick it up and you just go ahead and start smacking, and it does exactly what you intended to do. Software development is not like that. If you want to have a metaphorical hammer in software development, you have to literally understand the hammer at a molecular level to even begin using the damn hammer. And now that's gone. And so it's an interesting time where anyone can pick up this coding hammer and start swinging it around and break things and build things and do what kids do.
Yeah, maybe we should call it the Hammer Podcast now. Hammers and make it work. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
yes,
cool.
smack. And I mean, cool. Building stuff involves smacking things around. I'm okay with that. That was totally.
Yeah. By the way, I'm gonna fix my camera because I just realized that snap. Okay, there we go. Now I can read my shirt. My shirt was backwards for the longest time, and I never noticed it.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Anyways,
Yes.
So funny. But okay, so that's a good segue though for like maybe you to talk about like the skill you've been working on. And like I just want to preface this with like who ever doesn't know, like a lot of like the AI world is skills now, right? You like write a skill, and that's kind of like I equate it to like the human side of like understanding for your agent, like the human needs to write the skill by hand almost, or like very like custom, because that helps the agent like determine what it's going to do, and it needs like hand holding, right? So like, yeah, with that preface, like, what do you think skills are important, and what have you been working on?
I thought 2 months ago skills were going to be very, very important, and now I'm backing off.
Mm.
I saw that research from Anthropic specifically looking at how their agents crawl through these MD files that we're populating, and the Claude MD file apparently is the most important. And I've devised a whole system, and of course this is iterating, but essentially I'm using the Claude MD file as a, what do you call those people in the middle of the road with the flags?
Traffic controllers.
Traffic controllers, thank you. My Claude MD is a traffic controller,
Mm.
and I'm paying more attention to that currently, and also gathering skills. I'm finding skills that I think are interesting and just collecting them. I'm just saying, that might be interesting, that might be interesting. I go through them to make sure there's no injection involved, but I have probably 100 or 200 or 300 skills I'm just downloading from wherever, and I'm not instructing any of my Claude MD to look at anything in particular unless I want to have that traffic controller pay attention to that skill. And that's really what I've been finding, where I don't necessarily want to have skills be called every time. It feels like it is an if-then statement where the Claude MD is the gatekeeper to then go towards these skills. I'm trying to just suss it out. I haven't found a flow that I'm super happy with, and also I feel like I'm on my way. I think that's the best I could say about skills and where it's fitting for me. What about you?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, I always go the lazy route, and I just have like AI write my skills, but then I realize that it's like not really good at writing skills, because you're using like past model training to train something on what you want it to do like now, which doesn't really make sense. So a skill to me is more, yeah, like, okay, I've kind of gone through and like tested this with what you've done as an AI agent, and this is how you can do it better. It's almost like a refinement that the human needs to
Specifically to
write.
what you've been desiring.
Yeah, there's this weird like chicken egg thing with skills where in order to write a good skill, you really need to like get hands on with the project almost. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
because otherwise the agent is going to assume it can do things in some way, but it won't really have the context needed to write the skill properly
yeah,
automatically, if
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. What's a bottleneck you're finding right now with this, with your own development and this workflow? I'm just curious because I'm still not confident in it, and also I feel like it's just out of reach. If I just figure that one next thing, I could figure it out. I'm curious what you feel.
I would say the bottleneck's the cost, if anything. The cost, yeah, like, oh man, like the cost of the models is like,
Yeah,
and like we were talking the other day, like, oh, I hope the price of the models don't go up all of a sudden
they
drastically.
will, guaranteed,
Yeah, which is like, yeah,
guaranteed.
so bad. But yeah, maybe it's like, well, like we can talk about OpenClaw, I guess, for a second. Like OpenClaw, I've used it, messed around with it. I think it's great. It's really cool tech. I think it's a little too overcomplicated. Like it's like very, very LLM intense. Like you're like using lots of like tokens to do it and to get it
Mm.
running. But it's powerful in the end. But I think that maybe that's like overkill for some things. I'm a little bit more old school. I'm using, like Cursor and maybe like Cloud Code occasionally. But yeah, so for me, it's just like there's still a lot of hand holding. I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to Rem actually the other day. He had a similar experience. There's a lot of like, hey, you need to kind of guide it. It's still gonna mess up. It's got these kind of little caveats that you have to be like, okay, well, don't do that. And if you just kind of assume things, it's gonna like, make duplicate files or like do something that you don't want it to do. So you have to kind of still keep an eye on it. This is one of the things that scares me about OpenClaw is it's like OpenClaw is just kind of this black box and you don't really know what it's doing. But at the end, it's like, here you go. Which I think is great once everything's working 100%, but I don't know if we're there yet. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
I started a
So,
course 2 days ago by Andrew NG. I can't pronounce his last name.
oh,
Andrew
yeah, I know
NG.
Andrew. Yeah. Mhm.
And he was one of the very first that I started paying attention to years ago, looking at artificial intelligence. And this guy was I was learning Python at the time, and I was like, this is really cool. So I started taking that course and hit the nail on the head right in the beginning, essentially saying how memory is not just RAM anymore. It is, of course, memory is many things, but memory specific to AI and the problems that we're having is this evolutionary context shifting that evolves over time. It's not just simply holding state on drive. It's not simply just holding random access. It is now a different kind of memory that we're needing to discover and needing to optimize for. And right now, we just don't have the capacity. So we're all kind of fumbling a little bit. And I feel like this is just going to be a temporary thing, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good segue for what I want to talk about. Did you want to talk about anything else with your skill or like share your screen or
Yeah.
show anything?
Yeah, I could share the screen. This was a skill I just put together yesterday. I think it was yesterday.
Mhm.
And it's funny how let me pull, where is it? There it is. The world of ideation to getting a something over the line is getting smaller and smaller. And this is a perfect example of that. Where, can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Looks great.
So I essentially I was thinking a lot and I wrote a little bit on this, reflecting about the concept where output is not an indicator of quality anymore. You and I could spin up a fantastic looking website that not only is just a splash page, but has functionality that can provide a service, maybe two services, maybe three or five within a weekend. I mean, it might even be one day if we're really dedicated and have enough tokens and specific enough with our prompting and thorough enough with our planning. The output, therefore, is not necessarily a marker of quality. The output, in terms of capitalistic endeavors, being high quality output, you're going to have something that reaches product market fit, that actually gets into the hands of people that give a crap about it, that actually are willing to pay for that thing. It's really odd when you're thinking in terms of, well, if anyone can get something into somebody's hands that is of a reasonable amount of quality, then where is the value? Then where is this next frontier of value? Because then it shifts. Anyone right now has a laser beam of output that can call the history of humanity to its fingertips and then can launch that laser beam into wherever it is destined. The real value in my thinking about this is really coming down to the reasoning before that laser is launched, before that laser takes off and just begins its inevitable conclusion. There needs to be reasoning. And if human judgment and the depth in which it is achieved can be coordinated, that is the next bottleneck. And this is, of course, a hypothesis, but I think it's reasonable right now. If anyone has Claude, great, we all have this warp drive on our fingertips. How do we reason before we actually go ahead and use it? And that's why I developed this skill. And this was, of course, used with Claude.
Mm.
Ironically enough, I built this with Claude. So essentially, it is a skill that I'm tinkering with today, and I'm just using it where if it detects a change in what it is giving you, basically you give it a no, a redirect where you're working with it. It has a quick mode that will essentially trigger in mid-conversation, and it'll ask you a question. Why did you decide that? And that's really quick. It will capture that and store it into the Git folder. And then from there, you can begin to have a log of your decisions specific to where your logic and Claude are having some friction. It's a human layer of reasoning that goes along with your Claude. Now, if there's ever major architectural mistakes that Claude is making and you stop it, you can go into full mode and you could trigger it with why and go into more detail. So why is this valuable? This is where I think the value starts to come in, where you could show lineage of your logic, lineage of your reasoning alongside the model. And the whole intent is to really be able to say, cool, you've been doing this with your model for a while. What is my other coworker doing with their version of Y? Because they are, in my assumption, are going to have Y installed as well. And you could actually compare reasoning back and forth, because comparing output right now is a task that's ridiculous. Like just like comparing output right now, that's comparing all the PRs. I just that right there is just another gigantic amount of work. But if we could start comparing one layer before we attack this laser beam of productivity, I think that's a interesting place to go. So that's essentially what Y is. Feel free to go check it out, Marcus Rain /Y on my GitHub. And there's roles where you can have different people who have different roles in reasoning are going to have different roles in reasoning. And then there's stats about decisions log, average health score, the quality of someone's reasoning, if they have if they have evidence of their reasoning. I'm trying to figure out what fits with people in this, so I don't have a pure answer, but I'm using it myself, and it's actually been pretty interesting this morning. So that is
Mhm.
why.
Interesting. So where do you see that kind of like this thought experiment that you've kind of going down? Like, where do you think it best applied? Like, is this something that developers should be thinking about, founders, uh, you know, product managers? Like, where does this fit in the whole AI kind of spectrum? And
Yeah,
like,
I,
yeah,
I've
mhm.
I, yeah, it's a great question. I think that this applies to where value is desiring to be assessed. With, let's say, I spin up a incredibly beautiful website and get functionality in there and do it all within 6 hours. Is that valuable? Is that quality? Is that something that CTOs, CEOs, engineers can look at and be like, "Oh, this is an engineer." I don't think so. I think it's impressive and that I know enough to get that over the line and can actually, manage my environment variables and get it to a point. But I don't think that's necessarily the end value anymore. I think the value comes one step before it, where what is Marcus's reasoning?
Mm,
And then doing that cross team. What is Jim, Sarah, Tom, Tiffany? What's everyone's reasoning? And how can we go ahead and do a good job in making sure we think through things in a way that can be assessed and collaborative in a product focused direction. And
mm,
that's where I think why fits. I don't think this is itself a product itself. I don't think there's any moat around this. This is not something I'm going to launch with. It's more of I mean, this has a reasoning health check. Every entry automatically gets a health check below the developer's answers, and it looks for logical fallacies. It looks against architectural decisions that the CEO or CTO have made, and then it shares that there's maybe reasoning risks. It's a new way of quantifying value, and I think that's
mm.
a reasonable thing when we all have warp drives at our fingertips.
Yeah, interesting. Have you seen this? Oh God, what is it? It's like a agency, a platform for AI agents, where it's like you can have a lot of AI agents like building something.
I
Have you seen that?
saw that. I mean, I've seen two or three by now, and I honestly, I'm like, if I'm hesitant to. This feels too early to elicit confidence simply based off of my use of Opus. Like Opus
Yeah.
is a beast. Opus is a maniacal data chomping monster that can absolutely tear through a code base in seconds and produce something that I could never imagine within 5 minutes. And I still don't trust it to manage a team. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it,
Yeah.
it's so like just based on the inferences limitations and the whatever's being trained on the model, like it's still going to hallucinate that 10% of the time, and compounding 10% over 10% over 10%. You've got a horribly managed company.
Do
So
you think it
I don't
gets
know.
better from here though? Like, do you think it's like, this is just like the beginning?
If you talk to Jensen Huang, of course.
Yeah.
um, I feel that better there needs to be a better understanding of where the human belongs. The previous mindset of intelligence and value doesn't work anymore.
Mm,
It doesn't. And people are trying to make this square peg fit a round hole of because this is so much faster, it's going to be so much better. And it is so much better. That's not true. That's just not true. If everything is faster all at once, it's essentially it's a level setting device. It's a level setting mechanism that does not make everything better, because everything's better all at once. Therefore, nothing is better all at once.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, where level setting has occurred, we got to find our place in this. And I still think humans are figuring that out. I don't think these startups that are saying because it's better in the traditional sense, it's better. No, you're essentially diving into a lake that has no moat. You're diving
Yeah.
into there's no protection for you in this industry. So the organizations that can put some thought into where the human belongs, that can then take advantage of this superpower that we all woke up one day and now we have, hell, that's the organization that I feel will be able to do well.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, it's quite interesting to think, and it's also yeah. There's just so much like I don't want to say like value extraction, because like there's a lot of value being added with AI, but there's just a lot of like noise. I guess that maybe that's what I'm looking for, and I think this stuff that you're talking about really does help elevate like the idea that you're forming on whatever you're going to build with AI, right? Trying to really kind of like concretely think out the solution before just kind of like running wild and like blowing a bunch of tokens on building something that's already been done, or yeah, it's just going to be like something useless, I would say.
And that's
um,
hard. It's hard because, like, to rewire our capitalistic brains that we've been brought up with as babies to think better, faster, stronger is going to sell. It's a
yeah,
weird thing to be like, wait a minute, like, is that the case anymore? There is, of course, certain instances where that is true. And also, it is an interesting place where how do we find value when the level setting has occurred across the board, and the only one that can protect us is Jensen.
nice. Well, this kind of transitions. Will kind of transition to my topic, which is, and I think it also very much relates, because like I have found that like AI is giving us a lot of freedom to build things that would normally have taken a lot of like time for you to kind of go on your write some code, like build out your repo and like do all this stuff, and it kind of like opens up more time for you to be thinking about architectural design theory and like thinking of the problem, the why, right? And so I think there's some power there. So over the past like few weeks, I've been kind of thinking a little bit about like the agentic stack, and more specifically, what does it mean to like really build to build an AI agent that would be on chain and a economic actor in the future? Like, what does it need to have? And
Mhm.
so I've kind of put together almost like a framework, I would call it, or I don't want to call it a standard because it's by no means a standard, but it's more of a like kind of like a guideline for someone to be able to think about these things ahead of time as you're building,
Mhm.
and like kind of think about these like core pillars that are kind of important. Let me share my screen here.
Cool. Core
Um,
pillars do well with me. I enjoy structure.
yeah. So what I kind of came up with was this concept of spider, SPIDER, right? So it's really easy to remember, and really it's like it's the on-chain economic AI stack is kind of what I'm calling it, or the on-chain AI stack, right? Um, Starting out with like security is kind of like, I think, in my opinion, the most important thing. That's kind of like a thing. You always think of security first, right? You need some kind of way to reliably store secrets about things that the agent needs access to. Also, making sure that the things that he does have access to are not being like forwarded on to an LLM and like logged, or like making sure that they're optionally protected from hacking situations,
I'm
making
guilty
sure
of
there's
that. I'm guilty of just
I,
pasting an API key right into the like right in the cloud and be like, just do it, just do it. And I know in my heart, I'm like, I'm gonna
you're like, just make it
rotate
work,
that.
just make it, I'll
I'm
rotate
like,
it later.
I'll rotate it later. It'll be fine. I'm on free
Yeah.
tier. It'll absolutely just stop after a certain point.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, and there's been many times, I mean, even if it's not even your fault, like, Claude will just like suck in a secret and be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
look, I found a secret for you. No,
Oh
don't
yeah,
worry
I've
about
had
it.
to
I
do that.
tested it. It's
It
fine." I'm
found
like,
it in
"Oh,
my
jeez."
ENV. I remember it was like, oh,
Yeah.
look at this toy. I'm like, you're good.
Yes. Yes. So I think security is this kind of first pillar, right? It's like that's like most important. And then we move on to like payments. Like payments are like the new thing, right? Like we want to, as a ecosystem, like to make agents truly on-chain actors, we need to kind of eliminate the API key as much as possible. And we need to maybe even like have, going back to security, policies in place for access to those payments, like how that agent makes payments. So you need to kind of control, how much the transaction limit is that he can make, how long he can get access to the key, how many transactions he can make a day, how many total transactions in a month, like these kind of like fine-grained control, and utilizing something very powerful like X402. We also just saw like the MPP, which is the machine payments protocol. And there's all these cool things that are kind of coming out in this kind of payment stack as well. And then going further, like agents are going to need to be trusted. And in order to be trusted, they need an identity, right? They need something that kind of like ties them to their identity and has a way to kind of like prove themselves. And so ENS is just a great example of how you could do that. You can assign an ENS for an agent. You know that agent can then sign and prove that he is that agent by using that key that's associated with ENS. And it can also register with like a database that keeps track of its kind of like lifetime, right? So something like ERC 8004, and I know there's some other protocols out there as well, but that's probably the most commonly well known. And then moving down like further, we go into discovery. So like this is like when you're building an AI agent, it needs to be discoverable. So where is it going to go to actually register itself and be available to be an economic actor? Like, is it selling something? Does it need to talk to other agents? How do like other agents find it? And this is where we think about things like X402 Bazaar by Coinbase, or like some of these other registries where we can like build kind of this like discovery mechanism for agents. One of the other things is Google A2A. I don't know if you've heard of that, Marcus, but it's the agent to agent framework. They have a built-in mechanism with what are called agent cards, where you can kind of like publish your card. And you can think of that kind of like your well-known sites in like an HTML web page or something like that. But this is just specifically for AI agents. So agents can discover each other, right? Like in the future, there's going to be thousands and thousands of agents running on your behalf. Like, how do they know about each other, right? And then the Ethereum is kind of like my thought here is that Ethereum is the most relevant blockchain for running an AI agent. Some people would maybe say like Solana is also very popular and very feasible, but I think Ethereum is super powerful because of the work that's being done to showcase how powerful Ethereum can be for an AI agent. So giving an agent its ENS, right, which is on Ethereum, giving it an ERC 8004 registry, which is a set of smart contracts that like control that agent's state and its kind of like verifiability. And just in general, being able to spin up applications in like this kind of like trustless way on the blockchain, and then providing those APIs on the fly to other agents that can, easily get access to them in that run. And then this last one, runtime, actually like goes a lot back to what we were talking about. I think, Marcus, like runtime is this not only like the life cycle of the agent, like the agent probably is going to be living on either like your MacBook or your like Mac Mini or on your phone in the future, but it also could be transposable and maybe live in the cloud, right? Like maybe you transport your agent to Google Cloud or AWS or whatever, and it needs to take its memory with it in the future. Like, and we need to start thinking that's one of the things that I think is a little bit of a gray box, is how do we think about the agent's memory from a long-term perspective? You were talking about that earlier. And so go ahead.
No, that's exactly was a problem I was trying to solve with my own little. I have a OpenClaw with my computer, with my laptop, and trying to figure out a gateway to essentially have state being the memory of how do we transition. And I saw there was a new feature that Claude even released specific to that. But I think that's just a, with this memory that it's gathering and developing, how do we persist and how do we call it contextually with good timing, with good taste, if you will. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff I've seen kind of getting brewed. Obviously, like you guys have probably heard of Geo. Geo's like this knowledge graph, which in the future might be an interesting use case. There's also a project that I'm working on with Alex called Lore, which it maybe could be like a more of a private knowledge graph, and I think even maybe like that could be something we start to see as a narrative, is like private knowledge graphs for agents. There's a lot of interesting research being done, but there's a group called Bonfires. Have you heard of these guys, Marcus?
No, no.
So Bonfires is part of DeSci World, and they're doing well. They're building agents that are kind of like storing long-term memory and knowledge graphs as well. And
Mm.
so, like the synthesis hackathon that's going on, they're actually helping the synthesis for the EF hackathon, and all the agents are judges, and they're
I'm
using
watching that
the
closely. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
how,
this is
how do you
cool.
feel
Like,
about agent judges? How do you feel?
well, it's besides them taking my job. No, I think it's fine. I don't know. I think that I've used AI to judge a hackathon in the past, and I
Sure,
had bad results.
sure.
Uh, so I think it's still got some. It's going to need some human touch because, well, I think AI is only going to do so well at knowing who's like cheating and like maybe like doing stuff. Like there's only so much that a computer can like do to like think like a human. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on it, but obviously AI is good for everything in some aspects. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be telling my AI agent to judge. Ampersand is one of the sponsors in that hackathon.
Yeah.
So I'll be using the AI agent to judge it. So we'll find out.
Sure. And you'll be overseeing it. That's the point. I think
And,
there's this
yeah,
myth, I think, right now that full agentic everything is here, and it's just not.
yeah.
I feel like that's a bit of a hype train that is potentially coming for the right circumstance, the development team that can have the right resources to essentially test and retest the environment in which they're deploying the agents and can ensure confidence and trust increase internally before they actually deploy it to production. So like there's a path for this. I just don't see it here yet. I think it's great that
Mm.
hackathons are playing with this, but anyways, please continue. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, no, no worries. Yeah, I think you're right. I think
Yeah,
we're definitely getting closer, but there's still some yeah, some things to close the loop on there. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it for this. But I did want to mention that we're going to be doing a kind of a long term or long form boot camp about this. So I'm starting to organize it. We're going to have some educators, obviously, that you guys have maybe heard from in the past. Fabrizio from Urbe is going to help out. If you want to do one, Marcus, I'd love to get you involved. Nader, we're going to ask him to come on. He's not confirmed yet, but hopefully I'll be doing some talks about different things. The One Claw, talking about ampersand. We're going to have some people talking about hopefully ENS and ERC 8004. We're going to have Austin hopefully talking about ETH skills, which is like the skill file for Ethereum. And it's going to be a 10-week thing. And at the very end, we're going to try to get people to build with this kind of pattern, with the spider pattern. So keep an eye out. We'll share all the details for that. You'll be able to register, attend these kind of classes that we'll do, and to help you get more comfortable building AI agents in the future.
awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm anything that provides some type of framework, especially as the goalposts have shifted so much in the last 12 months. I'm a big fan of. So yeah, that's a framework for agentic anything. Let's
Yeah,
go ahead
yeah, we
and
need
yeah,
those. Humans need
yeah,
those, because
yeah,
I mean, I think they're important because it's it's a thought process that you go through. They change over time. Like this doesn't
yeah,
necessarily need to stay the same, but it's a start. It's a
yeah.
start to the focus of how we need to build the right way. And I think everyone's trying to build AI agents right now, and there's probably things that are not on this kind of like framework that I haven't thought of, which I'd love to hear. Just reach out to me. But I think it's just a start, you know, and yeah, hopefully it's a good starting point.
Yeah, we'll talk more. I already have a few thoughts, but I want to get them fully formed before I share. I'm more curious in these next 12 months where we've all realized the power of agents. It's amazing. How do we go ahead and really the framework? I think that's a very, very good place to go. And I think that connects with developers across the board. Understanding frameworks in the end, using that language, I think is absolutely fair to connect with the most developers in the most rapid way into a development workflow that can, in the end, hopefully assist their production.
Yeah, awesome. Well, anything else you wanted to cover at all?
I really enjoyed my time. This is a great signal.
Yeah, this is a good one. I really appreciate you coming
man.
on. Yeah, so everybody that's listening in, please, we do this every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific. So please, you know, follow the Edge of Node account if you're not. Turn on the notifications so that you know that we're going to be live streaming. We also live stream on YouTube, so you can always watch the replay there in case you can't find the replay in X. So go there. And yeah, if anyone's interested in coming on speaking, please send a message to the Edge of Node account. We would love to hear from you. And yeah, Marcus, it was great seeing you. Thanks for coming on. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Yeah, awesome. See you guys next time.